welcome to the channel. Thanks for being here. I'm Nero. Battle-Ready decks, the 5th installment, Salvation in Hand. Before we get into the deck, quick disclaimer. I am a member of the Cards Contributor Program. I am not, however, paid by or endorsed by 1939 Games, nor do I receive compensation from 1939. The opinions and thoughts expressed are exclusively my own. So all of the Battle-Ready decks you can purchase in the shop. They do rotate daily. Sometimes you can find them in a bundle. Currently, Human Wave is on the shop, but eventually Salvation in Hand will get there. Salvation in Hand is utilizing the salvage mechanic. And I didn't catch the play on words the first time, but I did the second time. So salvation, salvage, salvation in hand, salvage in hand. Pretty cool. Well done, 1939 Games. I didn't see it the first time, but it did dawn on me eventually. So let's take a look at the deck. Before we get into like the components or aspect of the deck, I'm going to say this real quick. This game is free to play. If you want to play for free, you certainly can. We've talked about this before, but we'll go over it again. You can also, these Battle-Ready decks are not your basic starter level deck. It's a point in between a starter deck and the most optimized version of a deck. Where that is on a scale, in my opinion, I think the Battle-Ready decks, if it's a 0 to 100 scale, you're probably in the 70, 75 range. There's room to add cards or tune the deck the way that you see fit. So for 20 to 30 US dollars from a value perspective, you can look at it like this, I suppose. If you want to pay and buy and purchase the deck, you can look at how many hours worked into how many hours received in entertainment and gameplay. So what's the deck? Is anywhere between 20 and 30. So for an hour and a half, 2 hours, the minimum wage, and you get 30 plus hours. You can play as long as you want. But if you played an hour a day for a month, that's 30 hours. That's a 15 to 1 ratio. 2 hours worked for 30 hours of enjoyment. Just saying, if you're going to measure value, there's a way to measure value. But let's take a look at the elites that are in the deck. There's First Signal. It's one. It's a staple in most Japanese decks. Not all, but most of the time. IJN SHINANO, great elite. Shiden, amazing elite. On the ASCENT, fantastic elite. Having elites like this in a deck, that's not really holding back. Again, I've said it before, you're not getting filler rares or things like that. You're getting staples. So even though you might purchase this deck and play it, a lot of the cards that are in the deck are going to be used in other decks as well that have Japan as a main nation. You can look at the specials too. Type 94, TK early. We also have SISSIOSASTO, that is to the allied nation, and then 2 copies of Winter Regiment, so you're getting the suite of them. It's great value, in my opinion. Just, again, it's subjective. Somebody else might have a different opinion. In my opinion, excellent value for this particular deck. But let's get into it. Let's take a look at the curve. Loaded on 1-drops, not just units, it's units and orders, so you can play an aggressive early game. Odds are you won't be, but you can if you draw that way. Or you can play a very defensive early game. So let's take a look at the 1-drops. Type 94 TK early, tank with blitz, gets +1 every time it attacks the headquarters. So it's first time it attacks, you're doing 1 damage, but the next turn is going to be a 2-1, then a 3-1, and a 4-1, so on and so forth. Full suite of 15th Cavalry, 2-1 blitz. First Signal Regiment as an elite, every time one of your units die, it's going to deal 1 damage to the opponent's headquarter. 1 copy of Type 93 to buff the early units. Full suite of 118th Mixed Regiment. This does have the salvage mechanic. So salvage will play out that if your unit or one of your orders that have salvage destroys the opponent's unit, you're getting that card with a reduction in its stats to your hand. 4 copies of scrap metal to accelerate. If you discard a salvage unit, you're gaining 4 credits. This used to be 0 cost to play, but I think a 1 credit cost is what's necessary for the card. Full suite of Out of the Mist. You can, if you double Out of the Mist an opponent's unit, you will get multiple copies of that unit, 2 of those. Full suite of Expansion, card drawing, 2 AKITA regiments. The Finnish unit 1/4 with salvage. It has +2 attack, so it's going to be a 3/4 against units with higher units. 2 copies of SISSIOSASTO. Usually when this card comes into play, it requires an answer immediately or it will get out of hand. The card gets +1/+1 every time a opponent deploys a unit, adds a unit, or destroys a unit. So if left as is, let's say your 1/2 SISSIOSASTO is guarding your headquarters, the opponent plays something like No Surrender, which puts 4 light infantry into play. He's now going to be a 5/6 guard, right? And it just keeps going from there. IJN SHINANO, doing damage equal to the number of units on the battlefield, and it will randomly disperse that damage. On the ASCENT, destroys and salvages all units with the least attack. That's symmetrical, so that includes your own. So if you have a signal on the battlefield and the opponent has a bunch of 1/1s and you think you're getting all the 1/1s, it will take your signal and leave all the 1/1s. So it's symmetrical. It hits both sides of the board. However many units are out there, if you have 5 1/1s or 1/2s that are on the board, it's taking the power, and you're getting all those copies. 1 copy of Take Liberty. Each player shuffling their hand into their deck, drawing 4 cards. Copy of Dragon Slayer. 2 copies of Infantry Regiment 61. So all the units that you're salvaging, if you have an Infantry Regiment 61 into play, they're not coming in as 1/1s. They're coming in as 4/4s, plus whatever deployment effect those units might have. 2 copies of Winter Regiment. It's another card that can take over a game. 2 copies of Frozen Assets. When you play it, it's going to put a Sissy unit into play with Blitz and Salvage. Just make sure that the unit you're attacking doesn't have heavy armor, or it's not going to work. And then Shiden with Ambush, Blitz, Fury. If you're at 11 credits, Shiden's doing 8 damage. Do more if you have a Type 93 in play. This is my favorite deck of the Battlready series so far. They've all been good. We have 2 left to go. Really enjoyed playing this deck, but I enjoy playing the Jalvage archetype, as we call it in the community, Jalvage. So it's Japan's Salvage, Jalvage. And we'll go ahead and get into some gameplay and see how it does on ladder. The gameplay footage that you'll see is me playing a game on ranked. However, fellow cards contributor program member Bear Gardner is also playing Salvation in Hand on ranked today. So there will be a link down in the description to his Twitch and YouTube channel. Thanks again for being here. Stay safe and be well.